94.3 WYBC, the rhythm of the city. Welcome back to another Sunday episode of The Electric Drum. I am your host, Wanda Coppage, and I am excited to have tonight's conversation. I have a very special guest, very special woman. Not to say that every conversation I have is not special, but this one is very near and dear to me, and I'm going to tell you why momentarily. But first, let's introduce her. There's a slew of titles attached to this woman's name. We're going to start with native, Connecticut native. She's also a producer, an author, a life coach, media personality, former Miss Black USA podcaster. You get the picture. She has done everything, and I want to talk about all of it. I get to speak directly to her. Miss Deya Direct, Deya Smith-Taylor. How are you?
What's up, Wanda? I'm good. I'm doing good. I'm feeling blessed. I'm happy to be here. Don't take it for granted that I am here. You know what I'm saying?
I know that's right. I know that's right. As I mentioned, I'm happy to talk to you. You already know, but I'm going to let the world know now. And Huck, Daryl Huckabee, who actually told me to say hello to you for him, he was the first
What's
person to
up?
know this. You're on my vision board, Dia, because you were introduced to me informally by someone I work with, one of my colleagues, because he said what I was trying to do at the time reminded him of you. So
Mm.
2020, I put you on my vision board to connect with you in some type of way. And here we are connecting. So, hey, girl, hey.
Hey, girl. Hey, girl. You manifested that thing, didn't you? I love it.
The God I serve, let me tell you, I'm so excited to talk to
Listen.
you. I just don't think we have enough time to go over everything, but I'm going to try to squeeze it in there with
All right.
starting with Connecticut. For those who don't know, what part of Connecticut are you from?
Oh, I'm from the Ville all day, every day.
No, which street?
I grew up on, my grandparents were on West Ivy Street. Um, and I also lived on Reed Street. Now, for a while, we did move out of the Ville. So I've kind of been all over New Haven, I would say, but I identify most with Newhallville. And my mom is
Nice.
still in Newhallville.
Okay. Okay. What's your mom's name? Let's shout her out.
Oh, Mamie the bondswoman. Oh yeah, the Bell bondswoman. She is that girl.
I
Yes.
know that's
So
right. And just for the record, yes, I grew up on Star Street in the Ville, so that's absolutely
oh,
wonderful.
so we homegirls already.
Already, I'm telling you, God makes no mistakes. So I know a little bit, and I'm sure everyone knows a little bit about your accomplishments in your adulthood, but let's figure out and find out more about Dia the child. Take us through your childhood.
Ooh,
What
let's
what was
see.
that like? What was that journey that led you here?
That's so interesting because um I was kind of considered like the wild child of the family. I grew up as an only child. And so I was always very independent, always very opinionated, and but I wasn't always, let's say, on the right path. And I actually gave my life to God at an early age, at 15, and I think it saved my life, really.
Nice.
But before then, people were concerned. They were concerned. I got in a lot of fights. My mouth got me in a lot of trouble. And so it's interesting because oftentimes the thing that you're told, is bad,
Mhm.
is the thing that is actually your gift that needs to be cultivated. It's always been my voice in having, independent thoughts that have helped me to get to where I am in life, and continue to go. But we have to be very careful, I think, about calling kids bad, or trying to minimize, what might actually be their gift and their talent that will take them, beyond what you could even imagine.
So wait, what would you say was that gift? You said speaking, talking. So did you land yourself in trouble for talking too much in class? Is that what was that the issue?
Absolutely, all of that. Talking too much in class, having a smart mouth,
Mm,
talking out of turn to adults, all of those things that really just needed to be um, nurtured and guided and redirected. And so I'm grateful that my mom, always did encourage me to speak my mind and to not be afraid to raise my hand.
yeah.
And I think as friend, girlfriend influences, peer pressure, all those things, that can kind of veer you off in terms of how you use that gift. But but yeah, so that's kind of that backstory.
Were you a part of any organizations after school activities where you got a chance at an early age to use your voice? When did that start for you?
You know what's funny? I always talk about my mom worked in daycare for many years, and so even after, so I went to Macedonia daycare,
Okay.
and that's where she worked. And so even once I graduated from daycare, okay, graduated, even once I graduated and went to Ivy Street School for kindergarten and all those things, and then I went to St. Mary's, and then I went to Jackie Robinson. During all those years, I would always come back after school or for the summer programs and teach. And
Okay.
so I think I started mentoring young people early, but, I like the idea of having influence and being able to teach people what I learned, so literally as soon as I graduated, I would come and, read books or talk about the things that I learned in school. And so I think that was always like a small way of cultivating that gift in me, wanting people to know what I knew, wanting people to do better,
Mhm.
and in this case, kids. So
And
I
you
would
you
say it
had
started there.
and you everything. You have, I wanna say, everything under your belt, which is it's absolutely phenomenal. But when did you start in radio? Was that always the path that you saw yourself on from high school into college?
So when I went to high school, I went to New Haven Co-op.
Okay.
So I also so I was in the theater program. So we would get bused from the co-op, which at that time was on Dixwell Avenue, and we would go to ECA, which was downtown on Audubon. And so that really kind of opened me up to what the opportunities could be. Going outside of our community, seeing other, being able to interact with other cultures, learning a craft and a skill, and really having my acting skills honed. And so I
Mhm.
actually went to school. I was a theater major at Howard, and so really that was the goal, to be on TV. And when I was at Howard, my classmates were Marlon Wayans and Taraji Henson and
Oh,
Eric
wow.
Roberson, if you're familiar with him as a recording
Mhm.
artist. And so
Absolutely.
these were my peers and classmates, and so we all had the big dream. And um and so I didn't have radio as an initial goal, but I will say that that seed was also planted um, on another radio station in New Haven during the summer. I interned with Lenny Green and Roger.
That would be
Um,
WNHC.
that's right. And
Mhm.
so I just didn't know if I could say it, but
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
So that seed was planted then, and and as it would turn out, what happened was when I graduated from Howard, I didn't go to LA or New York immediately. I actually ended up getting married way too soon
Mm.
after college, and so I took a job, a regular job, and I worked in the Senate. And I just thought it was the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. Although I will say that our Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro was really gracious in helping me to get that job. And at that time, I was actually, I had, and I, the reason why I was connected to her is because I had, while in school,
Mhm.
um, I had won Miss Black Connecticut, and then I went on to win Miss Black USA while at Howard. And
Wow.
so, yeah, shout out to everybody in New Haven who helped me to get there. And so that's how that happened. And so when I got to school, when I got to work, what I didn't realize is that, again, sometimes what seems like a setback is really setting you up. And so all the things that I was learning was preparing me for radio. Little
Mm.
did I know. So I was learning all this stuff about legislation and how the world works, if you will. And then one day I was just so upset and in tears, like, how could this be my life? I don't want a life behind a desk. This was not what the dream was. But what
Right.
happened is I prayed,
Mm.
and in my prayer, I remember, because praying is not just you talking to God, it's also you listening. It's actually a conversation. And so as I got quiet enough to hear, what I
Mm.
heard was, you need to learn everything that you can and embrace where you are. Um, as opposed to trying to be where you think you want to go. Like there's something for you here. And once I kind of shifted my mindset and started to learn about all the different issues, I started to get involved with organizations who were my peers. And through that experience, I met some young men who started a website called, at the time, called politicallyblack.com. And they also started a radio show on WOL, which is Radio One's talk station. And I got to be the host.
Nice.
And that's how my career in radio started. It started in talk radio on Sundays. They were buying time. But as it turns out, Ron Thompson was working at Radio One at the time, and so was Daryl Huckabee. And so I had two advocates from New Haven at this station. So you see how that was a setup.
Yes.
So then I went from, once that paid slot went away, I was able to do fill-ins during the afternoons. And so I did that for a number of years and, built relationships and connections throughout that process. And, eventually moved to LA. One of my mentors worked with the Tom Joyner Morning Show when they were looking for a producer, recommended me for that opportunity.
Mm.
And, that's kind of how that started.
So it sounds like it started when, after, like you said, you prayed and then you settled in. I'm going to get everything that I can from where I am right now. And you cannot skip the journey, because the journey will bring you to where you're supposed to be. That's what I
You
just got
summed it
from you.
up. You summed it up. That's it.
What I just got.
That's
That's
it.
amazing.
We complicate it, don't we? We make it more difficult than it needs to be. Crying and stomping, and I'm not saying it was a smooth sail, because it was not. But but I'm grateful for the journey.
Nice. And I'm going to go back just a little bit. You said when you finished school, college, you were married way too soon. So
Yes.
did that your eyes say everything?
Yes, child. Yes.
So did that marriage end?
It did. And as a matter of fact, I got married at St. Matthew's. And
Oh.
I remember going down the aisle. And I went down the aisle with tears in my eyes, because we always get red flags in relationships, whether it's a romantic relationship or otherwise. There's always that knowing, that intuition, that still small voice that speaks to you.
Mm,
And I was afraid to choose myself at that time. I was afraid, and I didn't have the courage. I didn't want to disappoint other people. And so I walked down that aisle with tears in my eyes, but it was a sinking feeling in my spirit. And not to go into all the details, but essentially about a year or so after being married and trying to make it work, what I didn't realize is that I was depressed and in a sunken place. And I did something that I would have never imagined that I would do, because I was in pain. And I think this is apropos, because there are so many people whose lives look great and
mm.
they're suffering in silence. And I took pills that day. I took a
No.
whole lot of pills that day. This one winter afternoon, where I just wanted to be seen and heard, and wanted my ex to see that I was in pain as a result of what was going on in the relationship.
Mhm,
And wanted to be honest with you, I didn't want to die. And most people don't. Most people are just in pain. And
mhm.
so, thankfully, I thought about my mother, and I put most of those pills back. I took enough to get me sick, but not enough to kill me, thankfully.
Amen.
And we end up calling the ambulance, and they pumped my stomach and the whole thing. And so it's from that experience, it really taught me the importance of choosing yourself.
Mhm.
Because what happened in that relationship is I realized I wanted him to make me happy, because I didn't have the courage to choose myself and follow my dreams fully at that time. And so he was an entrepreneur. He was pursuing his dreams. And, a lot of times women will sacrifice their dreams for a relationship, but oftentimes the man will continue to do what he's built and called to do. And
Right.
so that's essentially what he was doing. And I realized from that experience that it's way too much responsibility to put on another human being to make you happy. That's not their job, it's yours. And I learned from that experience to make my pain pay me back. And that's actually when
Mm,
I wrote my first book, called Touch Yourself, 30 Ways to Boldly Live, Love, and Let Go. And that book, it sounds provocative, but it's really a book about learning yourself and being so in tuned and in touch with yourself that nobody else can really teach you about you. It's actually supposed to be the other way around. We're
right.
supposed to teach people about who we are, what works for us, and then invite people who are aligned into our lives based upon our ability to have agency with who we are, why we are, and what we want to do.
I feel like the only thing that's missing is a scripture. You just gave a word.
But I can give it to you now.
I know that's right. So silently suffering and suffocating because you were not living in your truth when really what needed to end was the marriage, not your life.
Amen. That's it. That's
Okay.
right.
And then you turned and you flipped it because you are also a relationship expert, a life coach, and you have the well, you have the podcast. I'll go there later. But on the Tom Joyner Morning Show, you spoke to relationships, correct?
I did. I spoke to relationships. I was doing a whole series while at Time and After called The Man Whisperer, and that was really, again, because my motto is make your pain pay you back. So every experience that I have, Wanda, I I'm always curious about how do I get better? What can I learn from this situation?
Mm-hmm.
And so as I learn and research and grow and apply, just like I was, and I didn't put this together until just now, just like I did back at Macedonia Daycare, I always want to go back after I'm enlightened to help somebody else.
Hmm.
I don't want to keep it to myself. And sometimes it takes painful situations for you to learn. But I believe if it happened to you, it can happen for you. When I say make your pain pay you back, I think of it like when you go to the bank, you want to get some interest off of your money, right?
Mm-hmm.
You earned it, it cost you something, you might as well get something from it. And so if whatever you're going through, whatever painful situation you're in, there's a lesson there. And it's our responsibility to figure out not only why this is happening to us, but once it happens to us, what is it that we're supposed to learn? And not just learn, what is it we're supposed to leverage, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you learn from this thing? And one of the things that I learned was um, not only about my ability to love myself, which will then in turn help attract other people who would love me properly because I'm doing that. I'm teaching you that. You're not going to teach me any less than how I'm treating myself. But
Right.
people observe what you do. They observe your energy. They observe how you act. They observe how you compromise, and as a result it's actually instructing them on how to treat you. And so I use my life experience to help others in relationships as well, and so that's kind of some of the background on that journey.
Yeah, and you have 3 published books. You're working on your 4th. Is that correct?
Yeah, the fourth is now done. It's actually it's out on the 31st, so it's actually out now, and folks can go and get it. Yeah, it's
But
called. Well, I'll tell you about more about it later.
okay, because "Make Your Pain Pay You Back" sounds like it's supposed to be the title of one of the books, and I'm looking at the books, that's not in there, so that must be the next one coming.
You know what? That's so funny you would say that because I keep trying to get to that as a title, and it always becomes something else. But you're absolutely right.
I love it, and you have let's see, you said the first one is 30 Ways to Touch Yourself 30 Different Ways, Failure is Fuel, Soft is the New Power. And what I noticed in reading your bio and your background, you obviously teach self-love like you were just talking about, but you have a love for empowering and inspiring other women. Where did that come from in your journey?
Mm. I think I do what I do for women is what I want.
Mhm.
And really I also think it's ministry for me. And and I want to be really honest about that. That's really where it all came from. And so I may not be in front of a pulpit, but I
Right.
believe your life is your pulpit. And so, I do believe it's my calling to speak truth to power and to help people live yet another day and to live it better than they did yesterday, both spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and otherwise.
How long were you at the time during the morning show?
10 years.
10 years. And who was the mastermind behind the relationship series that you did? The Are you there?
I was.
So you had the absolute freedom, creativity to do what you do on the Tom Joyner Morning Show.
So because I was a producer for the show, it wasn't a segment on the show, but I was able to write blogs about it, to be on the stream, and to influence conversations on the show with some of the main talent. And then
Mhm.
in addition to that, I just had my own brand that I built upon. So I was going to have my stage whether they gave it to me or not.
I know that's right. I know that's right. The man whisperer. And it's funny because on my list of things to talk about, the next one is your brand. Because again, and if you are just tuning in, this is Deya Direct. Deya Smith-Taylor. Many of you are already familiar with her, but she's giving us all of the tea on her start to where she is now. The brand, what spoke to you to say, Dia, now I need you to step outside of just doing this to create an entire brand and make it about you and what you do? What happened in that moment? How did you get there?
I think it really stems back to, what we talked about earlier, which is it's nobody else's responsibility to see your gifts
Hmm.
and to make them work. It's the calling that God gave me. This is my life. I know what my gifts, talents, and abilities are. And a lot of times we feel like people should just get it and see us. No, you've got to actually do the work. And that's one of the things that Tom would always teach us. You got to put in the work. Nobody's going to just give you an opportunity. You have to create your own opportunities. And I think people are doing that way more now with social media.
Smart.
But if you want to shine, if you want people to know, if you have something to say, then it's your responsibility to say it.
Hmm.
And hopefully people pick up on it and they agree and they follow and you build and grow from there. But it's an ongoing journey, as I grow and develop and evolve, so does what I talk about and so does what I share. But I'm compelled to do it.
And all from personal experiences too. Make your pain pay you back, right?
Absolutely. Because I don't believe that what I've gone through is just for me.
Hmm.
And I know that I'm as special as I would like to believe that I am. I'm not that special, right? If I went through it, somebody else is going through it too, and they may be stuck. And so my heart is really, I think, with women in particular who are in transition, who are
Hmm.
trying to figure out who am I now or who am I next. Whether it's, you're stuck, in a job, or you have gone through a relationship breakup, or you're an empty nester, or whatever those transitional phases are in life. A lot of
Uh-oh.
I really believe part of my gift, superpower, and calling is to really help people to reignite, to figure out what that is, and then to capitalize on those gifts, talents, and abilities. Because a lot of times they're just laying there dormant, or you're not doing enough with your skills. And so, I'm able to, because I think we all have blind sides, right? We can, because we're so close emotionally, we can always see what other people see in us.
Right.
And
Hmm.
so I think I have that superpower and that third eye to really help people develop those untapped skills in their lives.
Nice. Now, with you saying all of that, clearly you know what your purpose is. Clearly you have identified that, you have listened, you have prayed, you have received. Other than those key essentials, to pray, to be open to what the word is from God back to you, what would you say some of the key essentials are in defining your own purpose? This is the life coach coming in now. So,
Mm,
what would you say to someone in identifying what their purpose is?
that's a great question. I would say the number one thing is, what do you love to do? And what would you do even if you didn't get paid for it? What do you
Mhm.
always find yourself drawn and attracted to? The second part of that is, what are people attracted to you for? What is the thing that people are always coming to you for? Part of what developed the relationship part for me was that people were always coming to me to talk to me about relationships, but I was also very intrigued about it. Like, I would just talk, I could talk about it, the song, I could just do this for hours and hours and
Hours
hours.
and
I could just talk about love and relationships and challenges and, for hours and hours. And so that thing that you find yourself passionate about, um, regardless of what's going on, that's usually a really good clue into your purpose.
Mm,
And the other thing is, your problems. Your problems are also a really good clue. Your problems that you've been able to resolve.
mm,
When you've been able to resolve a problem, because one of the things that they would teach us in radio is, who cares, right? Like, people want to know what's in it for me. So to the degree that you have solutions to solve other people's problems, makes you a great asset. When you
mm,
know something that everybody else wants to know, people want to know how to make money. People want to know how to be in a successful relationship. People want to know how to be successful in their career, how to figure out what their careers are, whatever that thing is. And it can be very unique. It doesn't have to be typical. And that's another thing. If you have a special gift, what's that stands out, that's not normal, that's also a great clue that you have you could have the market on a particular industry. You're a niche. That's the word I was
yeah.
looking for. You have a niche.
Okay. And then that's also what you need to define in your line of work. Well, one of them, the life coaching, you have to have a niche, which kind of transitions or segues into the next question. At one point, you were doing summits for women. Are we still doing those?
I'm sorry, we let's do a retake on that,
No,
Wanda.
no problem. At one point, you were doing summits for women, women summits. Are you still doing those?
Absolutely. So really, one of the things that I focus on these days is self-care and well-being.
Hmm.
And so, before the pandemic, I curated the Super Self Care Power Summit. And really, what that's about, it was holistic, right? Mind, body, soul, and spirit. And we were able to have, some celebrities like, Dee in the Morning, or Claudia Jordan, and some other local celebrities here where I live, come. And people were, people may be aware of Jay Barnett, who's a therapist, and he has a brand around Heal Bro that
Okay.
he's been going around the country talking about. And so I had therapists, I had doctors, I had people with personal testimonies. Um, Holistically, we do an experience where you can go shopping, you can have, glass of champagne, you can eat. We had DJs, we had food, we had panels from head to toe, with
Mhm.
men panels, women panels, all day long. We did yoga. We had a good old time, and then we set people up with massages. Like, it was just a full experience, and I would love to take it, across the country, really.
Right.
And so that's, again, it's one of my callings, is to really help people to reprioritize themselves,
Mhm.
and to make time for taking care of themselves, because ultimately, if you're not good, regardless of how busy you are and how needed you may be by other people, if you're not good for yourself, you're not going to be able to be effective, or as effective as you could be, because it's not sustainable.
Mm. How long would you say? I know there's no time limit, but I'm still going to ask. How long did it take you to get here to where you are right now?
I'm still getting to where I am.
That's a
But
perfect answer though. But yes, cuz you're so solid, and you, and like I said, you inspire, you empower other people, you've turned your pain into a passion, making it work for you, and you're transparent about it. Not many people have reached that point where you can talk about you in that way.
I think that is one of my superpowers, but also it's the only way to truly be effective is to be honest.
Mhm.
We're in a day with social media where everybody is talking about, all the great things that's going on in their lives. Everybody's talking about, we're all, people are getting Botox. You have all the filters. You're
Your
getting,
BBLs.
you're getting your body changed. All these
Exactly.
things, and so whether it's you in the pulpit or it's you on social media, if people only see the perfected you, then they know what their real lives are. So
Hmm.
then it doesn't actually seem attainable, right? Because people are not telling you the whole story. They're curating their stories. But people want to know, how do I get to where you are? The only way that people can do that is if you give them a real roadmap, not
Hmm.
a fake roadmap. You got to talk to people not just about your highs, but also about your lows. And that's often where people will find themselves and be able to relate to you. And then
Uh-oh.
as you tell them about your steps and how you but you got back on the road and you started again, that's what makes you relatable. That's when your brand is authentic, and that's when people will stay with you, because you've got a story to tell that they can appreciate and respect and relate to, and that gives them guidance and hope on their own journey.
I love it. It's the electric drum, Sunday evenings. I told you this was going to be a great conversation. I'm speaking to Deya Smith-Taylor, giving it to us direct, Deya Direct. And you were speaking about social media, the digital space, where you have moved your brand into the digital space. So you have a successful podcast. Tell us about the journey and what made you create the podcast. It's called Superpower, right?
Superpower her, yes. So it's the
Superpower.
word superpower with an extra H. And so it's where women of power and women with powerful stories come and they testify and they talk about what they've gone through. We talk about self care. We talk about the tools that it took to overcome the challenges in your life. So you might hear celebrities on there. You may hear powerful women on there. You will hear me talking about my journey, and some is long form, some is short form. We have fun. I have therapists on there, and we get nitty and gritty. Like, we go in. Like, it's not. This is not, your kids' podcast. This is a
Right.
podcast when you're ready to really deal with real life, and to really find out more about people. And the reason why I wanted to do a podcast is because it's long form, right? You get a chance to really talk, kind of like what we're doing right now, as
Right.
opposed to the quick hits that you normally would get on TV or on radio. You can really talk, and you could tell the story behind the story,
Hmm.
and really learn about people, but also really learn from people.
Dia, you majored in fine arts at Howard University. Obviously, you went to radio, worked in the Senate. What happened to the theater part of it? Are you
So
still
I no, I
pursuing
actually
theater?
moved. I moved to LA after that first marriage. I did move to LA. I lived in LA for 7 years, and so no, I was acting, and the
Okay.
movie, the last movie I did, it wasn't a huge role, but if you remember the movie Something New, I was
Hmm.
in that movie with Sanaa Lathan and Blair
Yes.
Underwood. Yeah, I was the real estate agent. I was Blair Underwood's real estate agent. So I've had some small parts on different shows throughout the years, and I was in LA when I got the call to go to the Tom Joyner Morning Show. So that's kind of where that shift happened.
So that means that you still have your foot in the door for acting. We could see you in a new role at any point in time.
You never know. One never knows with me, because I don't know.
I understand. And when you left that marriage, you were serious. You were out, out. You left the whole state and started all over.
Listen, I was in DC at that time. We just got married in New Haven, but yeah, so I've lived all over. I've lived in obviously New Haven. I lived in DC. I lived in LA, and now I'm in Dallas, and I'm remarried.
And that was going to be my next question. You're
Yeah.
happily married this time
Yes.
around.
Yes. Yes.
I,
Absolutely.
I know that's right.
Thankfully.
So I have questions now about the author, Dia Smith
Yes.
Taylor. So we
Okay.
already know that the name of the new book, but I want to go back. You said the name of your first book. Going into the second one, was it The Soft is the New Power or Failure is Fuel? Which one was your second?
Failure. It's Failure is Fuel was the next book,
Okay.
and that's where I got really transparent about that journey that I told you about with the pills, but
Mhm.
also when I got married, I didn't get married to get divorced. I was a church girl, and I thought I had heard from God, and I got it wrong. And a lot of times when we quote unquote fail, we judge ourselves or feel judged by others, and we can get stuck in that. That's kind of one of those transitions that I was talking about earlier where people get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also the place where you can learn that your pain can pay you back. Yeah, it happened to me, but it can also happen for me. I learned so much, Wanda, about myself. And mostly I learned from failures. I learned from mistakes all the time. Because a lot of times we overestimate what we can do or we underestimate. And so, you know, failure are teaching moments. Every great person, from Oprah on down, from Bill Gates on down, if you and I study the greats, when you study the greats, they talk about how they were able to capitalize off of their failures. They talked about those learning moments. Like failure, there's a saying that says fail fast, right? You don't fail or fall and get stuck. You fail fast, which means you take what you learned and you leverage it. You
Yeah.
move it. You move on it. You capitalize on it. It's not the end. It's just a part of your story. It's a part of the journey. It's a notch in your belt. It's a tool. It's something you paid for. So it's another way of going to college, right? Like you got to pay your dues. You have to learn. And so you only learn by trying. And I know one of my learning styles is by doing. Some people
Right.
learn just by reading. Some people learn by observing. I learn by doing. And so even if that means I don't get it right the first time, trust me, I'm coming back stronger.
No, that's right. I know that's right. And then soft is the new power. Tell us about that one.
Girl, well, my name is Deya Direct, right? So when I wrote that book, I was actually still working for the Times during the morning show, and it was like, soft who? Soft to where? How are you talking about somebody being soft? And it's so funny. One of the reasons why I wrote that book, and it's so far it's my most successful book. It's still selling. I wrote that book in 2016, and people are still going crazy for it.
Nice.
I wrote it because I was doing all of these man whisperer panels, and I was
Mhm.
always having those conversations that I told you I was passionate about. My girlfriends and I wasn't married at the time. We were always talking about, the dating world, the dating life, or the lack thereof, and what was going on. And, we saw ourselves as successful and, attractive, and, why is it not working for us? And
Right.
so there were all these lessons, and I was always talking to women about relationships, and I realized the journalist in me kicked in, and I realized you're talking to the wrong people. If you want to know about men and why men are acting the way that they are, you need to talk to some men.
Okay. Mhm.
So I started interviewing men, from Roland Martin to Lamont Rucker to these, really accomplished men to just everyday guys. And I realized that the narrative that my girlfriends and I were telling ourselves, we had it all
Oh,
wrong. We
mhm.
were leading with our accomplishments and our education. And that's not actually what was attracting the man. What attracts a man is your femininity. What attracts a
Right.
man is what you have that he doesn't possess. And they want to know that there's space in your life for them. And so I realized, we weren't really walking in our feminine energy or our soft energy because we were so caught up in our masculine energy, our hard energy. We weren't tapped into it at all because everybody has feminine energy, everybody has masculine energy, both men
Mhm.
and women, but it's
Right.
about which one is dominant. But many of my friends and we were really leading with and dominating with masculine energy. So it's because some of us
Uh-oh.
it's being hard, or you're a single mom and you're just going hard in the paint. You don't have time, right? You just got to get it done. And so
Absolutely.
your energy is about tasks, and it's transactional. And so we don't, or we've been hurt, right? And so when you've been hurt, your guard goes up,
That
and
wall goes up.
you're protecting your heart.
Mhm.
So the wall is there, but the wall may be protecting you, but it's from being hurt, but it's also protecting you from anybody coming in.
Mm. Come on now, Dia, with a word. I'm telling you, you are coming through with it today.
Yeah. And then the latter part that I'll say about that is I used to judge my grandmother, who was she worked and everything, but she also was she was a homemaker's homemaker. She cooked, she cleaned, she did it all. And so because we were told, you got to go to school and get your education and focus on that and make sure you make your own money, a lot of times we threw away the other side. We threw away what it looked like to take care of your home,
Yeah.
and we judged it because we thought it was backwoods. And I realized we had forgotten, my generation, my friends and I, we forgot how to be feminine and
Mm,
soft and to value what is natural to us, the nurturing side of us, and taking all of ourselves into the workplace. You can try to go to work and act like the men, but you're never going to win because you're not a man. You have to win as a
right.
woman, and that's a good thing because your intuition, your skills, your ability to see things differently, your ability to be more flexible and malleable and creative, it's different. We bring something different to the table than men do, and that's a good thing. And we don't need to work against ourselves. We need to embrace who we are and use all of our gifts, talents, naturally and developed.
We need to. I'm going to, Juan Castillo, if you are listening right now, I'm going to put this out there. We need to do a panel summit here in New Haven, and we need to have you back on the stage speaking.
I'm so here. So there. So there.
we, we
So
need to put
there.
this together because I'm here and I'm sure all of our listeners are here for everything that you're saying. On the flip side of what you're saying, I was just having a conversation with my mother about the difference between women of yesteryear and women of today as it relates to divorce, because you have been divorced. And as you mentioned, women still tend to stay in relationships and marriages that are not beneficial to them, that actually hurts them, that are not nurturing them, because that is what we know of our grandparents, our great grandparents. You stay in the marriage, you do not get divorced. And I told my mother, we have been conditioned to stay and pray, and hope that it gets better. But that change came around to where we are now okay with letting go what does not serve us. So my question to you is, are we going to get a book in the future about divorce and how it's okay to let it go? It's
Ooh.
okay.
Ooh.
Did I just put
Um,
it on your
you did. But actually it's a good segue in terms of knowing what serves us well, because this new book is called You're Successful, but Are You Okay?
Mm,
You're successful, but are you okay? And there's self care, is real self care strategies to preserve your sanity in the workday,
mm,
and it's all about understanding what serves you well, because you are the CEO of your life and your well being, right? How you begin your day, what you do, what you don't do, what your boundaries are, how you respond to failure, addressing anxiety and stress, burnout. All of those things are super important. And most importantly, redefining success, right? What
mm.
does that really mean? What does that really look like? And giving yourself permission to change your mind about what success is. Now, to your previous question, the reason why that's um, apropos is because whether you're married or not, whether you're in a relationship or not, you can still be successful. And you get to define and redefine what success looks like for you in this season of your life. And what used to be important may not be as important. um, what you've learned about yourself in this journey will also help you to reprioritize what matters most now. Not what
Mm.
matters most to your mama, not what matters most to your girlfriends, not what matters most on Instagram, but what matters most to you.
Right. And it gives you permission to change as you elevate.
That part.
I love that. Dia, you have obviously debunked the idea that you can only be successful in one area. When people say get a job and do just this because you can't do everything, you have your hands successfully in everything. So I'm going to ask that question to you. What does success look like for you?
Hmm. Peace of mind.
Hmm.
Peace of mind. And fulfilling my purpose. Doing the things that do honor me, that get me excited about getting up in the morning, that make me feel like my life matters. I'm in that part of my life now where, you want to know what your legacy is going to be. I want my life to
Right.
matter. And I want to, and I don't take time or life for granted, which means I don't want to waste my time doing things that are just task oriented. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, but if the majority of your time is spent doing what you got to do, you don't have time to do what you're called to do.
Mm.
So I want to do what I'm called to do. I want to help other people live another day better, better than they did yesterday. This is my calling. Talking to you right now, Wanda, is my calling. That's success for me. I've now had a successful day.
I know that's right. So have I, because I wrote this in 2020. We're going to
Girl,
connect
you did
again.
that thing.
I am so, so happy to have this conversation with you. The book, You're Successful, but Are You Okay? Where can we get it? Where can we order it?
Amazon is on Amazon.
Amazon.
It's ready. It's available. And I really want to make this an Amazon bestseller. And I believe we can do that. I put my heart and soul into this. And the good thing about this book is it's not just me talking about regular old self-care tips. These things are science-based. Some of the things you may do, but you don't actually know what all the benefits are. I'll give you a quick
Right.
example. You talked about me doing everything. I actually don't do everything anymore. Especially, and I definitely don't do everything at the same time because
Mhm.
science has proven that multitasking actually slows you down.
I believe
It
that.
it actually, your brain can only do one thing at a time. So
Mhm.
you might be able to do, regular minimal tasks at the same time that don't require your brain. But if you're going to be doing anything that requires expertise or thought leadership, or to really think through it, you need to just focus on that thing and get it done, or get it done and then as far as you can get it, and then move on to something else. But we literally are not wired to
Mhm.
do all those things at the same time. No. And so don't multitask, even though
Okay.
job descriptions say, we want you to be able to multitask at all these things. In reality, you just want somebody to do tasks. But if you want somebody who's actually qualified to do high level work, you don't want them multitasking.
Right.
And by the way, they can't. So it's like having your computer, all the windows open on your computer. What happens? It slows down.
Starts buffering. Exactly.
We know something about buffering, don't we?
That's the age that we live in. Dia, consider this book ordered. As soon as I finish this conversation, I am going to go order it. And all of the rest of the books are available as well. I knew I was going to go over my time when I sat down to talk to you today. I knew it. And I am at my time, but this has been wonderful. I want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to come and speak with us on the Electric Drum on WYBC. And I'm going to speak to Juan. We have to get you here live and in person to
I'm
speak.
here. I am so there. I can't wait to do it. Please follow me at Deya Direct. I love to follow up with everybody and stay in touch. And I'm a home girl, and I was home for Christmas, and I can't wait to come back.
Last question before we go. Are you going to? I know that Tom Joyner Morning Show, Tom has retired. Any plans on getting back on radio? Radio? I know you have connections with Dee Dee for Dee Dee in the Morning, who is our morning show host as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's my girlfriend. You know what? It depends on who invites me. I'm ready and wait. I'm ready and available. I
I
can
know
do it.
that. This is Dia Direct. She has been direct. Wasn't it good? A good conversation. Deya Smith-Taylor, please go get her books, support her. I know I'm going to do that as soon as I get off the air. Dia, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I hope to be in contact with you again. So just be looking for that. I won't be a pest, though, I promise. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, family. You have Flashback Sunday flashback to the 80s coming up. So you make sure you keep it locked for more great music. Join me back here next Sunday for another great conversation. You have been listening to The Electric Drum, 94.3 WYBC. Be blessed.